Hello everyone and welcome to Boundless Dentistry. In this video we'll talk about, although not a very common pathology, but an important pathology that mostly affects the jaws, which is maxilla and mandible, and the pathology is central giant cell granuloma. So in this video we'll talk about what is actually a central giant cell granuloma, the etiology, clinical features, differential diagnosis, radiographic features, and finally the treatment options that are available for the patients that are suffering from this pathology. So let's get started. Now, central giant cell granuloma is an intraosseous lesion. Now, what do we mean by intraosseous lesion? The intraosseous lesion basically means that the lesion is present inside the bone. Now, in this case, it's present inside the jaws. Now, if you look at this clinical picture, you can see a swollen region that is present over here. So, some pathology is being developed in the mandible, and you can see the facial swelling that it is occurring. So, this is an intraosseous lesion. Now, the central giant cell granuloma has two parts. There is the fibrous part and there is cellular part, which we'll talk about in detail when we are talking about histopathology of this lesion, which we'll talk about it shortly. It also had some multinucleated giant cell which can be appreciated in histology. There are foci of hemorrhages that are present because one theory of etiology suggests that there is some hemodynamic disturbance that leads to central giant cell granuloma. It is a benign lesion, which means that it mostly affects the region around where it is present, but it is destructive. As you can see in this clinical picture here as well, it is invading all of the teeth that are present and the jaws, and when you remove the lesion, you have to remove the teeth as well as adjacent structures. So it is benign, but it is destructive. Mostly it affects mandible. Maxilla, very rare cases have been reported to affect the maxilla. It mostly affects the mandible. And when it starts, for example, in the right side or the left side, it tends to cross the midline. So this is basically a brief introduction as to what is central giant cell granuloma. Now moving on towards the etiology that leads to formation of central giant cell granuloma, the pathogenesis is mostly unclear, but there are several theories that have been suggested. We'll talk about it one by one. Firstly, there is local reparative reaction of bone. There is some bone formation that is going on, there is bone being repaired, and in that process it might lead to formation of this pathology. That is one theory. The next theory is that there might be some trauma that leads to formation of this pathology. For example, there is some road traffic accident. For example, there is some error that has been caused by the dentist while treating some other pathology that might lead to formation of this pathology. Thirdly, there may be some capillary injury, which means there is some blood related trauma that has occurred in that region which can lead to formation of this pathology. Next, we have some hemodynamic disturbance in the bone marrow. For example, there is some other lesion that has been forming in the bone marrow, and there is some pathology that is occurring around the blood vessels, so which might lead to formation of this central giant cell granuloma. And finally, the last theory that has been suggested as etiology of this pathology is that there may be some previous traumatic or inflammatory episodes which were due to some other pathology, but that trauma or the inflammatory reaction might have led to formation of this central giant cell granuloma. So these are some proposed pathogenesis that are responsible for causing the central giant cell granuloma. Now moving on towards the clinical features as to when a patient is suffering from central giant cell granuloma, which are the features that we might look for in a patient suffering from this pathology. Firstly, as we've talked before, the lesion is benign and it mostly affects the jaws. As you can see, it's affecting the jaws. Here it's affecting the maxilla. Here it's affecting the mandible. It is benign. It is not spreading to other parts of the body. It's limited to where it has started. Mostly affects the children and young adults. Mostly they are affected, but it can affect older adults as well, but that ratio is really less. The lesion is mostly painless when it's expanding. When, like as you can see in this picture, although the patient has some swelling and patient can appreciate the swelling is causing distortion in the facial symmetry, but there is no pain associated with it. Patient mostly presents to the dentist by complaining of this swelling that is present, not because of any pain. Occasionally, there is some rapid expansion which then causes pain, because when there is rapid expansion, it might compress against the nerves. For example, if it's in the mandible, it can compress the inferior alveolar nerve, the mental nerve, and the buccal nerve as well. If it's expanding in the maxilla, it can affect the nasopalatine nerve, anterior superior alveolar nerve, and it can also affect the middle superior or posterior superior alveolar nerve depending on the location of the lesion. Clinically, the lesion might appear blue because of cortical and mucosal thickening. Because the cortical and mucosa are thickening, it might give bluish tinge to the lesion. The central giant cell granuloma is divided into mainly two types. There is this aggressive type and there is non-aggressive. Aggressive means it's expanding really fastly and the patient might have clinical signs and symptoms more severely as compared to non-aggressive types. And in aggressive types, there are more chances of recurrence as compared to non-aggressive types. As you can see in this picture, these are the non-aggressive types of central giant cell granuloma. They're not expanding really fastly, so they have better prognosis when we treat such lesions. Next, we have the radiological features. The central giant cell granuloma can be either unilocular or multilocular radiolucency. As you can see in these pictures, it can have a unilocular appearance or multilocular appearance. Next, the boundaries are ill-defined or they can be the corticated boundaries. For example, in this case, you can see the boundaries are corticated. We can well tell where the boundaries of the lesion are present. For example, in this case, the mandible, and also here we can tell that the lesion is corticated, and this is also multilocular as you can see in this radiological picture. Next, there is cortical thinning. Now, the cortical thinning is mostly present because the lesion is expanding. As you can see, the cortical bone is thin over here. Because of the expansion that is going on, there is resorption of the bone around the teeth as well as the mandible. So, the aggressive lesion, as you can see in this radiological picture, you can see how the lesion is expanding and how severe the facial swelling is, and see the destruction that is going on around all of the adjacent structures. So, the aggressive lesions, they mostly have greater chance of recurrence as compared to non-aggressive types. Now, talking about the differential diagnosis that are lesions that are might similar in appearance and radiological features, like central giant cell granuloma, we have dentigerous cyst, odontogenic keratocyst, ameloblastoma, ameloblastic fibroma, myxoma, aneurysmal bone cyst, cherubism, and Langerhans cell histiocytosis. So, these are the differential diagnoses which are lesions that might resemble central giant cell granuloma, but according to histopathology, clinical features, and radiological features, then we arrive at a differential diagnosis as to which lesion is that actually present in the patient. Now, with the help of some diagnostic tools, we can arrive at a definitive diagnosis. Firstly, we can go for needle aspiration as to rule out some high pressure vascular lesions. Next, we have imaging to determine the extent and adjacent structure, that we determine in radiography that what are the adjacent structures that are present and which structures might be damaged when we're trying to treat such lesions. Now, since central giant cell granuloma lesions resemble hyperparathyroidism lesions, we go for serum calcium levels and also PTH levels to distinguish either the lesion is central giant cell granuloma or it is hyperparathyroidism lesion, which is a very important part of reaching a definitive diagnosis of CGCG, which is central giant cell granuloma. For such oral pathological lesions, histopathology is a really important part at arriving at definitive diagnosis. So let's talk about the histopathology of central giant cell granuloma. In this slide, you can see there are some multinucleated giant cells. You can see these are the multinucleated giant cells which you can appreciate in such lesions. Next, we have some cellular stroma which consist of spindle fibrous fibroblasts. As you can see, these are the stroma and there are fibroblasts scattered throughout. You can also appreciate them here, and these are the multinucleated giant cells as you can see. They are extravasated RBCs. You can see these pink lesions that are present all around. These are the RBCs. These brown pigmented lesions which you can see, these are hemosiderin. Sometimes osteoid and bony trabeculae can also be present in such lesions, which you cannot appreciate in these pictures because this feature is not that common. Next, these features, as you can see, they're also identical to hyperparathyroidism and cherubism lesions. So when we go for serum calcium and PTH levels, it distinguishes either it's central giant cell granuloma or it's hyperparathyroidism. So these histopathological features are also really important to actually arrive at the diagnosis of central giant cell granuloma. Now, lastly, talking about when we have arrived at the diagnosis that yes, the patient is suffering from central giant cell granuloma, now what are the different treatment options that are available for such patients? Firstly, curettage. Curettage is the first and most important treatment option that is available for the patient. Basically, it is to remove the entire lesion around with some adjacent bone, as you can see in this picture. The teeth are also removed because there is resorption of bone around all of these tooth, so prognosis of such teeth is really poor, and some bone is also removed around the lesion, so this is known as curettage. Sometimes we also have to go for resection, that is removal of some part of either maxilla or mandible if there is pathological features. For example, the cortical bone has thinned so much that now even if we go for curettage there will be occurrence of fracture. So when chances are of recurrence and pathological fracture are present, then we go for resection. For central giant cell granuloma, the long-term prognosis is good. There are less chances of recurrence, and up to now, there are no cases of metastasis that has been reported. Sometimes we go for steroid treatment as well. Now, the purpose of going for steroid treatment is basically to decrease the size of the lesion before we go for curettage. Interferon treatment can also be done, but this type of treatment is very less because of chances of occurrence of side effects. So this was all about central giant cell granuloma. We talked about some basic introduction about central giant cell granuloma, the etiology which might lead to formation of central giant cell granuloma. We talked about its clinical features. We talked about the differential diagnosis as to lesion that resembles central giant cell granuloma. We talked about its radiology. We talked about its histopathology. And then finally, we talked about the treatment options that are available for the patients that are suffering from this pathology. So I hope this video was useful for you. And if you like this video, please like, share, subscribe, and press the bell icon. Thank you for watching this video.